Hello, welcome back to your video training session on the introductory training, and on this video we are looking at valuations and appraisals. What we're going to cover over this video is a potential vendor requests a market appraisal, booking the appointment in and fact finding, confirming the appraisal, printing comparables, and then your market appraisal follow-ups. The first thing we're going to think about though is a potential vendor requests a market appraisal, so an introduction to the appointments and the diary views. So hopping into Expert Agent, your appointments are held under the Appointments option in the top menu. Within the appointments, you've also got a dashboard, a grid, the option to add a new appointment, and the option to go to your two different diary views here, the daily diary and the weekly diary. Because appointments has got a dashboard, you have got the option to add your quick links in as well, and you do those from the dashboard. Clicking into your daily diary, it's a view I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. You've got your date along the top with your team here and the times down the side. Now the team is the team that we configured in the last video, and those are the people that I work with on a daily basis. I have got this calendar option here, meaning I can flick to a specific day quite quickly, and the day that I'm actually on is highlighted in blue, and the day that it is surrounded in blue. If I want to get rid of that calendar, I can use this button here, and that just hides it, slides it over to the side and gives me a little bit more space. I've then also got the option to flick through negotiators here as well. So if I had more negotiators in my team than columns in my daily diary, I can flick through them here, and I've got the option to flick through the days as well. Anytime I am lost in a specific section of Expert Agent, if I click this question mark button, that will take me through to the relevant page in the manual to help me out with where I'm stuck. Under the options menu here, you've got the option to go through previous and next negotiator and previous and next day, the option to hide or show your cancelled appointments, the option to change your different time slots for this particular view, the option to view your own appointments. It defaults to your team, but if you were on anything else, you can go back to your team. The office appointments, group appointments, or customize that view just for this particular session. The option to print the diary, and the option to go through the weekly diary as well. So if I go back up to appointments and select weekly diary, the weekly diary is a slightly different view but still vaguely familiar. This time you have the week along the top, including the weekend, and your times down the side. The week starts on whichever day you click on. So you can notice on this one it starts on the Monday, but it is actually Tuesday. If I clicked on the Thursday though, my week in the actual view on the diary would start from Thursday and end on Wednesday, so it's just something you need to be aware of there as a little quirk. You've also got the option to close the calendar on the side, the option to flick through the days using this button here as well. Once again on the options, you've got previous and next, the option to hide or show cancelled appointments, the different time slots, show 1 day, 5 days, 7 days, 14 days or 31 days. The different appointment views as well, and the option to print the diary or go back to the daily planner. Now what you will notice is you've lost your separate negotiator columns with the weekly diary. That's because each negotiator has their own separate appointment colour. So any appointments that have been booked in for them has a colour bar down the left hand side of the appointment, so you can tell quickly at a glance whose appointment is whose. So those are your two different diaries. You can use whichever one you prefer to use. It is entirely up to you. Any one that you do use will correspond with the other one as well. It will pull through into the other one, but you've got those two views there for you to use. So let's have a think then about booking the appointment and fact finding. So booking the appraisal, following the add new property wizard, and then adding your vendor in as an applicant. So hopping into Expert Agent, I'm just going to access my diary again under the appointment section and select daily diary. Now obviously you can put this through in the weekly diary. I'm just putting it through in the daily diary because that's the view I prefer. So on the diary, on the correct time, so we're going to put it in for 10 o'clock, I'm going to right click on the time and select valuation. That takes me through to the appointment record. Now this is the appointment form because it's highlighted up in the top here and it's got a little calendar, meaning it is the appointment form. Okay. So the appointment type is a valuation and it is a pending valuation. We haven't yet confirmed it with the vendor. The appointment negotiator is myself, and I do have the option to add an additional negotiator and also check the availability on both the appointment negotiator and the additional negotiator as well. If there are any conflicting appointments, it will come up and tell you if there are conflicting appointments for either the appointment negotiator or the additional negotiator. The appointment start is at 10 o'clock because that's when I ticked on. The appointment end is 10:15 because my default appointment length is set in my staff profile to 15 minutes. So I click on that little clock there, open up the time picker and move that to an hour. I can also set it as a task for somebody as well. So I could set it as a task on my colleague Nick just to let him know that I have actually booked that appointment in. That will then go onto the task pod of his homepage. We've got here some internal appointment notes to add in, so I'm just going to add those in. And what we're going to put in here is things like, for example, valued at 330 2 years ago, but didn't go to market as wanted, closer to 350. Blogs & Co, who are our competitors. They're going in tomorrow to value. Okay. I've then got some vendor or landlord visible notes now, which I can add in here. And if you're sending the vendor portal, those will be visible to your vendors. Now, do be aware of that. If you are sending the vendor portal in your company, you will know about it. But any notes you put in there may be visible to your vendors. So that's why it says there, be careful. Now I'm just going to quickly save this appointment. The reason why I'm going to save it is because I haven't quite finished yet, but I'm going to leave it or save it into my diary so that nobody else can double book me at this particular point, because I now need to go and spend a bit of time adding the property record into the system. So to add the information in, I'm not just going to add the information into this internal appointment notes box. I'm going to actually add it in as a property record. So I'm going to click the plus icon next to property details, and if I had it in the system already, I could do a search for it and add it onto the appointment. I don't have it on the system, so I'm going to click the plus icon down at the bottom, the plus with a little house, which opens up my new property wizard. So the department is sales, but we could change it to a lettings property, in which case it would change then vendor details to landlord details. But I'm going to keep that at residential sales. Postcode lookup, it's just a case of literally typing in the postcode and waiting for Royal Mail to populate that for you and selecting which option from the drop down you wish to use. Inquiry source, just to make sure that we are taking note of where our applicants are finding and our vendors are finding our information. And inquiry method, to make sure that we're taking note of where our vendors and our applicants and our landlords are, how they're coming to us. I'm then going to add our vendor details in. Salutation field is important for letters purposes, so output purposes, when you send a letter or send an email or a text message, to make sure that they have a salutation in there. Otherwise, any email you send to them will be blank. Adding in an email address, mobile number, home and work phone. Now my vendor doesn't live at a different address, but if they did, if I clicked on that button, it would give me another postcode lookup for the vendor's address. And I can also add a vendor 2 in now as well. And that would be anyone different, for example. And I can add them in like that. If it's Mr. and Mrs., I would probably add them in as two landlords, or two vendors rather, here, rather than adding them in separately. However, do be aware that when you're searching for vendors in the top search box here, you can search for your second vendor as well. So moving either onto the Features tab at the top here or using the Next button will do the same thing, and that takes us through to the features of the property. Now, of course, a lot of this information we're not going to know at this point, which is absolutely fine. You don't have to fill in any of this information that you don't want to. You filled in the most important information, which is the address and the vendor details. So all we're doing in here is filling in any information that we want to, or gathering any information that we want to from the vendor whilst they're on the phone with us, or any information you may know already about the property because you know that area. For example, I know that this is a house, and it is a terraced house, and it is slightly older, and the location is town centre. Now you can set your own property type, style, age and locations in your configuration by your boss or your super user. We don't have an asking price for it yet, so we're not going to add that in. We're going to add that in at a later date once we confirm the valuation. But what we've got here is Features 1. Now, Features 1 are the essentials. That's what they're also known as. And those are the essentials for sales. You'll have a different set list of essentials for sales as you will for lettings if you're using them. You may not be using them, which is absolutely fine. But what the essentials are things that are deemed absolutely essential from an applicant side of things. So, for example, for lettings, if you've got an applicant in sales, for example, who has a Great Dane, you're probably only going to want to show them properties that have a large garden. So the general rule of thumb with essentials is you tick as many as possible on a property record and as few as possible on an applicant record to avoid your applicants' matching criteria being reduced. So at this point I'm not going to add any because I don't know them yet, or add bedrooms, receptions or bathrooms or the tenure either because I don't know any of that information. These questions here are example of our extra data questions which we've got set in the sales department for when we add a property in. Extra data is where you can extend the system's capability by adding up to 50 different configurable fields per department at various points throughout Expert Agent so that you're asking the questions or gathering the information that you need. So the vendor status there for my vendor is hot. We didn't ask them about finance at this point. We didn't ask them about a board at this point. It's a little bit presumptuous. They are selling though because they are downsizing and the timescales are ASAP. Again, you can either go to adverts and notes or next, and you've got the option of adding any notes in here or any adverts in, which you probably won't need to do at this point. So in that case, I'm just going to press the save button and that adds the property on to our appointment. Again, we've got the option here to make any changes to this record, so I'm just going to press the save button there, and that will then change the appointment up at the top to say 1 Shepherd's Barton, and in my daily diary you can see there that that is now booked into the appointment for an hour, and if I hover over it, I get that big pop-up telling me all the relevant information about that appointment, and if I print the diary, all of that information will print out as well. One thing you need to think about doing now that you have actually added the property into the system is adding your vendor in as an applicant. So the vendor is there to sell their property, but if they're staying in the area, they might want to go onto your mailing list as an applicant as well. So to open up the property record, you just click onto the property from the properties details section in the top right hand corner of your appointment record, and that opens up your property. On the action menu of the property, second from the bottom is housekeeping. Second from the bottom of that pop-up is applicant records, and you've got the option there to create applicant for vendor 1. That will pull through all of the relevant information from the property record onto the applicant record, and you can then start thinking about adding them onto your mailing list and having them in as an applicant as well. It's just a nice little touch to offer to your vendors, and it's a very simple thing to do. So next we're going to think about confirming the appraisal, so creating the appointment confirmation letter and creating the marketing appraisal form. Now this is actually done from the appointment record itself, which is already open in my Expert Agent, but to open it, you just click onto it and that opens up the appointment record. Now we're confirming the appointment from the actual appointment form. So on the appointment form, right click, there's an option to create a letter. Now also, as always, if you don't have a right click or you just prefer to use this one, the whitelist icon opens up the action menu as well. Create a letter will take you to the template grid, where generally by default you will be using the R letters tab. Those will be templates that you've created yourselves. I'm going to be using the expert agent default letters though, and filtering on Word. I've then got there our pre-evaluation appointment confirmation letter. So if I click into it, that starts downloading it in Word for me. And if I click onto it, that will start opening it in within Word for me. It's pulled through all of the relevant records information, just saying who's coming to look at the property, what time, what date, and it pulls all of their relevant information in there for you as well. Now obviously if you print onto headed paper, you would just go File, Print, and print that onto the headed paper for you. You can also send this via email as well. So I haven't made any changes to this letter, so I'm not going to save it. We'll look at doing that later on. So all I'm going to do at this point is actually close down the Word document. I'm then going to press send as email, and that will automatically attach that letter as a PDF attachment to that email, and I select our recipient. Press the send email button, and that letter, exactly how it had been created in that Word document when it was created in Word, will be attached as a PDF attachment and will get sent out via email from Expert Agent. So we've now confirmed it, so we can set the status on this valuation appointment to confirmed and say that we have confirmed it with the vendor. Now the next thing we need to do to make sure that we're ready for our appointment is to create a letter again, and this time create our marketing appraisal form. So once again, filtering on the Word option, creating our marketing appraisal form. So there's our marketing appraisal form ready for us to print out and take with us to our appointment. It's pulled through all of the relevant information that we needed it to, and you can print that out and take it with you and fill all the other information once you are actually at the appointment. So once again, File, Print. Now I haven't made any changes, so I'm just going to close it down, and I don't need to send it as an email or tell the system that I've made changes, so I'm just going to press the Save button on here. So we've confirmed the valuation and we've printed out the marketing appraisal form to take with us. The next thing we need to think about is preparing comparables. So preparing and printing the comparables for the appraisal. Now this is done from the property record, and we can open the property record from the appointment form itself by clicking into the property from the properties details section in the top right hand corner of the appointment form. That opens up your property record. So from the Details tab, you have got the option here to view other comparable sales sites, Net House Prices, Land Registry, Zoopla and Rightmove, but you've also got the option to show your own comparable properties and the same option on your action menu as well. Now showing you your own comparable properties first, either by clicking on that button there or by right-clicking and show comparables. That will open up this field here, and first of all it filters on the first bit of the postcode and the first digit of the second bit of the postcode. You can then filter on the price range, the number of bedrooms, the number of reception rooms, when you actually enter the property in, what department you're looking in as well, and what branches. If you press the Save button, that will take you through to a grid pre-filtered with all of that information for you to then right-click and create a report. And print that out and take that with you as well. On the property record again, you've got these four options. So if you click, for example, on Zoopla, that will open up a Zoopla page which will pull through the property postcode here. Now if you scroll down, it will give you the exact property. So if you click into it, it says there 225, and if you click into it, it will give you a little bit more of a breakdown about that property. Not only the estimate there, but it will also give you the rental value as well. and also give you this helpful little graph here of the UK average, how that home has changed over the years as well, and the average in BA11. So to print that page, there is a handy print this page button that Zoopla's given you, and you can just print that page out and take that with you to your appointment as well. Next, we're going to finish with market appraisal follow-up, so confirming the fees and prices and sending the appraisal follow-up letter. So hopping into Expert Agent, we've gone to our appointment armed with all of our relevant information, our marketing appraisal form, our comparables from Zoopla, our comparables from our own website as well, from our own Expert Agent, and we've gone to the appointment. We now need to come back and actually confirm that appraisal. So onto the property record, we're going to right click, and under Valuations you've got the option here to book a valuation. Now what that means is you can add the property details in and then book the appointment on top of it, the opposite way round to how we did at the beginning of this video. What we did is we add the valuation in and then added the property on top of it. You can do it the other way round. But what we're going to do is confirm a valuation. Now that's not confirming the appointment, it's confirming our fees and our prices and all of the information that we found at that appointment. What that will do is if you click on it, if you've got Expert Agent Marketplace turned on within your business, it will pop up with that, giving you the option at this point to order any products and services from our third-party partners. If you did want to order anything, you can choose to get the agent, for example, key agent, to charge your client, which means you can charge your client whatever you want to charge them. Or you can just close that one down. And you get the confirm evaluation box here. So we're going to put in the marketing price and then some internal notes here. So would prefer to start marketing at 340, but know the client wants closer to 350. We'll look at doing a price reduction in a few months once we have some stats on viewings and some feedback. The advice to clients will pull through to a letter. So we're going to say basically the same thing, but a little bit more professional. So we would recommend starting marketing at an asking price of 350 with a view to accepting proceedable offers of 340 and above, or whatever else you wanted to put in there. That pulls through to a letter, so you can write as much information into that box as you need. So we've got the new price text there and the lowest acceptable offer, which essentially will give your property a price range. We've then got the fee, so we're just going to put in here 1.5. And I'm not going to put in percent and leave it that as fixed fee, because what the system will do once I press the save button is think that I mean £1.50 and put VAT on top of that £1.50, so charge them a fee once we actually sell the property of £1.80. So I'm going to leave that as it is and put in here that it is a percentage fee. Gives us a slightly healthier fee estimate there of £6,300. If you need a minimum fee, you can put that in there as well. The contract type that they're signing with us is sole. And press the save button, and that will start downloading your confirm evaluation letter if you have got that set within your system. So what they're set within the training department is they are called event template triggers, and your boss or your super user needs to set them. So if you have a specific letter that you use at specific points within the system once you're doing workflows, you can set it so that they appear at the right time. So pressing save on that confirm evaluation box has popped up with our confirm evaluation letter fully merged, ready for us to send out or ready for us to open. and maybe amend a little bit and send it out. Now, if we hadn't set that to pop up at us, you would need to right click on the property record and create a letter the same way we created the letter from the valuation appointment earlier. Now, let's say we forgot to put some more information in here, so I'm just going to add some in. So we've made some changes to this letter. So we need to make sure that expert agent knows that we've made those changes by going to File in the top menu, selecting Save As, and saving it onto our local hard drive. We can then close down Word, or you can print it out and pop it in the post, but I'm going to send this via email, so I'm closing down Word. Now, what I've got the option here, what I have to remember to do if I've made changes and saved them onto my hard drive, is to press the select button and upload that document back into Expert Agent, because what Expert Agent will do is take a snapshot of that letter as it creates it. If you've made changes to that letter, it doesn't know that you've made changes to it unless you tell it has. If I just press save, that would be telling the system that I've made those changes, I've printed them out and I've sent them. I don't want to send it via email, but if I press the send as email button, those changes that I've made will go onto a PDF attachment automatically attached onto our email. Send email down at the bottom. So press the OK button there and close that, and you've now successfully confirmed your appraisal as well, and you can then go through to the Match Criteria tab and add all of that relevant information that you missed in there. But for all intents and purposes, on the Events tab you can see all of that information that we've just done, but that property is pretty much ready for us to start going through the marketing process and get that ready for marketing, which is done on the next video. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I really do hope you found it beneficial. The next video is the Valuations and Appraisals video.